while he was still alive, I questioned his sanity. And my own. The enemy was so close now I could hear them breathe, "God is great," even before they said it. Sometimes you actually hear a man say Allahu Akbar before the utterance. You can feel the fear in him, his pumping himself up, charging every fiber of his wasted life, knowing the chances that he'll get to you are not very good, because you are almost as determined as he is. Almost. You feel him and hate him. There were men here who said this particular enemy was just misled, deluded. They said, kill them because you have to, but don't hate them. They are, after all, fellow believers who only went astray. But being even-handed is not an easy thing. I hated a lot of things. I hated not being here more than I hated being here. This was a dilemma. But the bigger dilemma was our makeup, ours and the enemy's. They had descended like locusts on this land to establish God's rule while carrying out suicide attacks on civilians just about everywhere else. They were unforgiving in both pursuits, and they came from every continent. From day one they possessed a fearsome arsenal that seemed to have materialized out of thin air, and they went by a variety of names. Western news agencies mostly just called them the Islamic State. I'll stick to enemy. Enemy spoke a babble of languages. We, on the other hand, who were there to stop them, mostly just spoke Arabic and Persian. The Afghans among us were formidable warriors, maybe by virtue of how much fighting they'd known since the beginning of time. But they were hired hands in the end. They did not get dreamy-eyed about martyrdom like the Iranians did. The Iranians, us, who hired the Afghans for the job and shared the wistful and fragile sounds of Persian with them, did get dreamy-eyed. In fact, there was a degree of dreaminess about the Iranians that sometimes made you think the world would go to sleep one day and simply forget to wake up. We were also hitting outside of our comfort zone. Syria and Iraq were deep Arab lands that may have needed us just then to stop the enemy, but they didn't want us. They didn't love us. Yet we were there, equipped with some bullshit reason about protecting the holy sites of Mesopotamia from the desecrations of the common enemy. This made us suspect, even to ourselves. And often I wondered if our pretense was not worse than that of the Americans, who variously dropped bombs on the enemy and on us and put it all down to saving civilization. At least the Americans, for all their bluster and spine-chilling gunships, did not cram belief down anyone's throat. We did. Or we tried. Lately, the Red House had been a favorite obsession for the enemy. By now, the initial suspicion that the regulars had for me had settled into stolid acceptance, even deference. The Iraqi Arabs who were there called me doctor. The Iranians called me professor, while the Afghans preferred commander. None of this was said with irony. We were all getting shot at equally and dying at farcical rates. Distress under these circumstances doesn't have a place, and the mortars and dish grounds made no distinction. Nassif had come a week before our night watch, asking for volunteers for the Red House. The enemy was desperate to get it back, and there was something absurd about this desire of theirs. Even more absurd was their drive to get back the town of Khanti, in which the Red House sat. Maybe they thought they could relink with the road to Aleppo from there and pause their recent losing streak. Whatever it was, they were dying for it, which suited us. Nassif said, "The Red House is empty." The rage in his voice was contained but icy. In that simple statement, I saw all the strangeness of this war. What were we doing here? Vultures perched on Mesopotamia's tired bones. I glimpsed Mualem, who was my age, a hardened veteran of the Iran-Iraq War of 30-odd years earlier, wheezing and writing in his notebook. He couldn't write a war diary if his mother's life depended on it, but I wasn't going to tell him that. More than anyone, he'd warmed up to me, reminiscing about how the Karbala 4 battle of back in the day was the mother of all battles, though he should have said mother of all defeats. He lost 2 cousins and 36 comrades in that bleak epic. Maybe it was there where he was gassed. I never asked him about it, and he didn't offer details. Mualem wheezed and gradually died over these 30 years, yet he kept at it. War for him was a kind of essence. He breathed it. Without it, he ceased to be. Mualem, too,